Welcome back to another edition of Roofing Right with Dave and Wally. Wally, Dave, and we have our special guest with us, Kristin, Building and Roofing Sciences. In this series, we focus on cold storage, and in this particular video, we're going to concentrate on how to address any rooftop penetrations, mainly pipe penetrations. We have a pipe penetration here. Now, most contractors, when the guys are doing these, they really kind of pride themselves on cutting that nice and tight around that pipe to make it easier when they go to flash it. So we actually have about 1.5 inches to 2 inches around this pipe that's cut bigger. So what do we really need to worry about when we're for this pipe penetration on this type of roof?
Well, the first thing that we should be doing, and that was already done before we started the video, was that we filled the flutes with spray foam insulation, and then we cut it flush and then laid our rigid insulation on top. So this is great. What we want to make sure is that we have a minimum 1 inch perimeter around the pipe penetration, because we're going to fill that all the way down from the deck level to the top of the rigid insulation with spray foam. And that's because we want to make sure that we get a really nice air seal, because we want to keep that cold air at the interior and make sure that warm air stays out, because we don't want to cause a condensation problem.
So these are major air leakage compared to like even a wall juncture too, right? So these are very important.
Very important.
So basically all we got to do now is just fill that cavity with the spray foam, right?
That's all we got to do now.
Okay. And that is starting to rise. Better too much than not enough.
That's right. We want to make sure that it's going all the way down to the deck level.
So once the foam is rised and set up, all we got to do is cut that back. So Kristin, we've got the pipe all done. We got the flutes filled. We got the cavity filled around the pipe. Now this is one way you could do it for basically a mechanically attached system, right? So my thought, if you're doing an adhered system, there's, because we also have to have base attachment around this.
Yep.
So, I mean, there could be a lot of insulation on these. I mean, 14, 16,
more.
you name it, sky's the limit. So if a contractor's got to buy, a 12 or 14 inch screw, they don't sell them onesie twosies. I mean, odds are you're going to have a box kicking around your shop for how long. So what I've done in the past is whatever your dimension of your first layer, be it 1.5 inches, 3 inches, whatever the case may be, mechanically attach some dimensional lumber to even out that first layer, and then fill it. You cover all that just like we did everything else, and then you've got shorter screws where a guy has to actually put the base attachment. That's one benefit, right?
That's a great idea, Wally. And what that does is when you bury your fasteners in the bottom of the system, it reduces your potential for thermal bridging. And that means that the cold stays near the deck level, so it limits the potential for condensation so the heat can't get to it.
So just to clarify, her first 5 or 6 words were, Wally, that was a great idea. Did you get that?
I did, but
Hard to believe it.
maybe she was under duress.
Only sometimes.
Okay, we've got the membrane installed. We've got all our base attachment installed. Now we're down to flashing accessories, pipes, curbs, what have you. So in this instance, we have a pipe here that needs to have flashing installed. Now, we have a lot of different flashing accessories out there. We have our split pipe boots. We have our guys mostly call them witches hats. Now, we can't really use this on this pipe, right? Because we want this to fit tight around that pipe.
We want it really tight.
Really tight. So we actually there's 2 different options for a contractor. You can actually field fabricate it, which is kind of laborious because we have our base attached around this pipe. Dave, what we got to put over the top of that?
Well, over your base attachment, you'd have to have a target
Patch.
Right. At least 2 inches past your fastener so you can get your weld, right?
So that's one piece you got to
Right.
weld. Then what do you got to weld on top of that?
Well, you use more unsupported. You have to heat it, flange it, put it around, weld it up.
Or GAF actually we can make custom accessories for you for whatever size pipe you need.
Correct.
So this eliminates this 2-step process, already has the target on it. So basically this is going to come across over top of this pipe. Pretty simple. Once you get it welded, water block behind it, clamp and all purpose, then it'll get finished. Well, once this is all done to the pipe, what's going to come over top of this?
We're going to put our big pipe insulation on top.
So that's going to be the best option. Now, another option, we have a can of 11/21 in here. We can actually adhere it to the pipe. Now, that's not a requirement, correct?
Yep.
But if this is adhered, it's a lot easier to work on. Sometimes you need 3 hands working on these. And plus, it looks a lot better. Even though it's going to get buried, it gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling that everything's done correctly.
So, Kristin, what are we going to do now?
After everything is complete on the roof, we want to make sure that after the drawdown is complete, which is after the interior temperature reaches the desired set point, that we come back up on the roof and we want to check our terminations, our penetrations, and we want to make sure that none of our term bars or anything has come loose. So we want to do a final check and make sure that everything is back in place where it should be.
So, old roofers, Old school roofers, explain briefly what a drawdown is.
So what that means is that we're taking the temperature, sometimes in a blast freezer, down to negative 50 degrees. So we're going to have a lot of expansion and contraction, primarily contraction, when you're bringing down temperatures to that really cold level.
And that's not going to happen overnight, right?
Nope. Sometimes it can take 2 weeks. And so we want to make sure that as everything's shrinking, it's not pulling away from our base flashing or away from our pipe penetrations. So after everything's done and the temperature pull down is complete, we want to make sure that we come up here one final time and just double check and make sure that everything is where it should be.
Just do a final walkthrough.
Final walkthrough.
Very good. Thanks for joining Roofing Right with Dave and Wally. If you want any further information, feel free to look at our website, gaf.com/cold storage.